Yeah, do you want to talk about Karen Nazario, the guy that was pepper sprayed in his car?
I don't know anything.
Okay. Well, so this was just a lawyer friend contacted me to kind of weigh in on this because he knows we have a podcast, so we don't have to talk about it much. I did watch the video. It looks like the cops are way out of line. It's wild. Stepping back from the actual case because, details are being argued in court. There were two things my lawyer friend brought up that we've talked about a little bit, but the idea that we don't have national body cam policies and we don't have huge penalties for lying in police reports is very interesting because he's a lawyer. He's a criminal defense lawyer. And he says you almost expect the police report to contain fabrications.
Yeah.
We don't even need to belabor it. I just thought it was interesting. He's in the criminal defense system and basically said he finds it really hard to understand why there's such leniency for lying in police reports and having body cam malfunctions.
Yeah, I know nothing about it, but it seems to me that if there is a system with uneven risk on either sides where one party is given the weapon leniency if they lie, it's like that is a system ripe for corruption. So I don't know anything about this. The body cam stuff we've talked about seems very obvious. Penalties for lying. I mean, this is the same issue that you get with anything is, look, if we can't prove that you lied and it's unclear, you walk. Okay. But if we can demonstrate, if we can prove fraud or anything, that obviously should be wrong. Now, I don't know if that's already on the books. It might be.
That's the thing. I don't know. He's saying that it's not.
I don't know. It may or may not be. But what I do take is man, off this focus again on police. Here we go. And why police? Is this how most Americans die? Not even fucking close. Is this how most Americans are maimed? Not even fucking close. Why do we keep hearing about this? And my answer is the news does not give two damns about saving lives or the welfare of people. It doesn't care. If it did, what you would do is start blindly from, okay, what is harming the most people? And if you want to narrow it, what is harming the most Americans? Mm-hmm. You would start at the top of the list and you'd be like, holy crap, it's refined sugar all the way down. It's heart attacks and diabetes and this, and we'd be all over it and we could save millions of lives.
Yeah. Well, that's the COVID
action.
That's the COVID point that's interesting is we have a COVID death counter that runs on all the news stations. I see this in the gym. It's the only reason I see it. It's just constantly updating you on how many people have died from COVID. But it would be really useful to have maybe a top 5 thing. So the timer for COVID can stay, but you just see it above or below other things so that you have context for how many people are also dying from the number 1 cause of death, which is not COVID. And then you see COVID and then you see what's closely behind it.
Yeah.
But they're just not, that's not the goal of the news. The goal of the news is not to inform people or to improve the lives of American
No. I mean,
citizens.
Can you imagine if there were individual cases of people with diabetes and heart attacks and the amount of food that they ate at McDonald's and how McDonald's served them 4 burgers in one day and then they had a heart attack. This stuff happens, in the same, but no one in media is interested in picking it up. And I actually think that this is a side where the supply will meet the demand because the what is it? Asymmetry is on the side of we have dumb reptile brains that see images and think they are representative. And the news has the selection of everything that has occurred. And if they want to put diabetes and people dying and all this kind of stuff, that's what will happen. And that's what people will panic and care about. Now, there, of course, is a relation where sometimes people get bored of stuff, but people would be bored of this if the news were simply searching for ratings and was just perfectly optimizing for ratings. I think they could find other ways to do it. There's other things to be outraged. Actually, I take that back because this has an individual agent that can be held responsible. It's a horrifying scene that might hit really well on what makes people react. But in any event, the fact that we're talking about police constantly and talking about how many people are harmed in a year by police without relating that to other causes of harm that can be mitigated is, to me, very strong evidence that this is not a good faith actor, and this is not how we should be even starting the conversation. Now, as it gets to police and we get there, I'm probably in favor of all the things he said. Let's do body cam footage. Let's sue the crap out of the precinct of anybody whose body footage turns off. Let's have all of these additional rules. Yes, but I don't know. It seems like we're missing the things that are killing and hurting the most people in order to remain focused on this pet problem. Do you know?
Well, it's also for some of the leading causes of death in the U.S., like heart disease and cancer. You also run into the fact that there's a push against identifying the problem. So people are saying that obese is a slur.
Not people. Twitch is now like not allowing you to say.
But that's the thing. That's a
Twitch
platform.
Is insane,
that's a
man.
platform.
No,
and
you can
saying,
say obese, but you can't, like, in the chat, you're not allowed to say it. I don't know what the rule is, but it was just one guy discovered that he couldn't enter it into the chat in terms of voting, and now that was the story. So I have to confirm.
Okay. What I'm saying is you're laughing because obese is right now being considered a slur. And people are pushing back and saying you can't make obese a slur. It's a technical term. It's a medical term. Well, we have an R word that I won't say because I don't want to get canceled for people with a certain level IQ.
Yeah.
It is also a technical term.
Yeah.
And you can't say it. And so the number one causes of death in America are actually heart disease and cancer and things of that nature. But I wonder if part of the reason that will never get talked about is because...
I think you're allowed to say the R word if you mean it technically. If you're like, hey, this is my brother, his IQ is 65, I think you're okay.
Okay. I'm just telling you that there have already been technical medical terms taken out of the context of conversation, and there's a push at least to make it so that you can't fat shame people, so that you can't talk about weight, so that you can't talk about obesity. How are you going to talk about, if you're a news station, how are you going to talk about the fact that the leading cause of death is weight if you're not allowed to mention weight?
Well, no, I think you're oversimplifying it. What people, the reason that Twitch did it, which I disagree with, is not because people were having scholarly conversations about BMI. It's because they were being purposefully mean to fat people, which I guess we can call them fat, but not, they were using that as a mean term.
Sure.
And the reason that the R word is now a bad word is not because people were describing their loved ones who have low IQs. It's because they were using it to take people that were not technically medically within that category and to put them down.
What I'm saying is that you're talking about the news spending more time covering heart disease and cancer and things of that nature, since that's what kills most Americans. What I'm telling you is there is a movement in America that it's not a bad thing to be 300 pounds, 400 pounds.
I wonder how significant that movement is. I've heard it and seen it, and it was on the Cosmo magazine.
Trans people make up 0.6% of the population,
sure.
And the movement for trans rights is really large. What I'm saying is we're at the first domino of 300 pound and 400 pound people saying you can't tell me this is unhealthy. It's shaming me. It's slurring me to tell me this is unhealthy. That you can't tell me that this is the wrong way to live.
You might be right.
I see more of that than I do of people saying that the number one problem in America is people having excessive amounts of fat to the point that it strains their body and kills them.
Yeah.
Which is not at all in the mainstream media. It's not at all in the magazine. Like, no one's talking about that. Mm-hmm. So in terms of the two sides fighting, it feels like in the media, there's much more push to not fat shame, not bring up the word obesity, not make people feel bad than there is to save lives by harping on nutrition and diet and exercise and all that stuff.
Sure. So
I don't think we'll ever see the news talk about heart disease the way that they talk about coronavirus.
Or to take individual cases of egregious examples of companies enabling that sort of, like, why don't we just go to
have
TLC?
A death counter?
Like, isn't there a TV show like My 1,000-Pound Life? Like, why aren't we going to TLC and in the same way, like, is this not worse than pepper spray? Like making a spectacle of this really, really dangerous health situation. I don't know which way. It's like it seems to be pretty awful. But that's totally fine. And to be clear, I'm not saying that cops should pepper spray people that don't deserve it. That is a no. Don't do that.
Yeah, I'm just saying I don't think we'll see the news cover the number one cause of death in America the way that they cover COVID or police murders or anything of that nature. Yeah, I think it will just never be the focus of the media.
Yes. It seems to be a power game. I think that's all that I had. Did you have anything else?
I'm Googling now the number one cause of death in America, but
I looked up the top 10. I think it's heart disease.
I don't know. I was looking up annual deaths the other day in the gym. But
if you look at them and you go, which of these are strongly related to diet and exercise? It's like down the list, and it's you could save a lot of lives by having a government public focus on diet and exercise and what's unhealthy. And like, we've mentioned this, but I remember growing up and like fat was the thing to be avoided, because unfortunately when eating fat is associated, it's got the same word as the fat that's on your body that is makes people not like you as much because you're not attractive, or it is just not what you want. But what was never really explained was like, this isn't, you don't like eat this and then it goes to your body.
There's healthy fats that you can eat that are good for you, and then there's also sugar, which is bad for you.
Bread, and it's not necessarily
also
just
to be clear though, people will disagree that sugar causes cancer. Or causes heart disease.
And it might not even be the cane sugar that is the problem. It might be the high fructose corn syrup and the sucrose.
The diet causes cancer. People might push back on. That's what I'm saying.
Who? I'd be surprised to hear that. That seems like
people in the comments might even.
Sure, maybe. That seems to me to be a fringe.
I agree, but I
have only read Blue Zones and anti-cancer. So
no, my perspective is that diet has an impact on heart disease and cancer. But I'm just saying, I don't even think that that's something you get to say and not get disagreed with.
Sure. Anyways, hope that you guys enjoyed that clip. If you want to see more like this and have us do more podcasts, we are 100% funded by our generous patrons. And if you'd like to contribute, there's a link in the description, and we'll have one pop up on the screen right here so that we can do more podcasts where we have fun conversations and hopefully some deep ones like this. Either way, hope that you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one.